In this lesson, we're going to be configuring UCS connectivity. The first thing we're going to do is create the VLANs that we want for our servers to be able to use on the local area network. The second thing we're going to do is configure which ports we want to use for the LAN uplinks. The third thing we're going to do is create the storage vSANs. In some cases, there may only be two, one for Fabric A and one for Fabric B. Next, we're going to configure our SAN uplinks. And finally, we're going to explore other uplink options. Let's go to the console. Here I have my UCS console. And we're going to go through this in greater depth a little later in this lesson. But right now, we're going to start by creating VLANs. Now, if I was a VLAN, where would I be? Well, on the left-hand side, we have a couple different choices. We have an Equipment tab, a Servers tab, a LAN tab, a SAN tab, a VM tab, and an Admin tab. And I'm willing to bet that if I want to create a VLAN, I probably need to do it underneath the LAN tab. So I'm going to go there now. When I pick the LAN tab, I get all the configurations that relate to UCS LAN connectivity. As you can see, under the LAN cloud, I have both Fabric A listed, or FIA, and Fabric B listed, or FIB. If I expand those, I can then see some other options. For instance, if I want to configure a port channel, this is where I would do that. If I want to configure an uplink Ethernet interface, I can see those here as well. But what I want to do is configure VLANs. Now you might think that I want to configure VLANs right here, but I don't. Really, where I want to configure VLANs is in the global configuration underneath VLANs. I can highlight this and I can right click on this to create a VLAN. In this case, I'm going to create a VLAN called vMotion. Afterwards, I want to go down to these radio, and here I can pick whether it's a global VLAN, which means can this VLAN exist on both Fabric interconnects, or whether it should be on Fabric Interconnect A or Fabric Interconnect B, or both fabrics but configured differently. In this case, I just want to create a common global VLAN, and I'm going to call this VLAN number 250. The first thing I want to do is check to see if there's any overlap. So sure enough, I clicked on that and I do not have any overlap. So I'm going to go ahead and press OK. This sharing type here actually relates to a private VLAN feature and functionality, so we do not have to worry about that. So I'm going to press OK, and I have successfully created VLAN vMotion 250. I'm going to go ahead and press OK. I can click on the LAN cloud and do it from here, and I can even click on this LAN Uplinks Manager, which is what I'm going to do. When the LAN Uplinks Manager opens, it gives me a list of the different types of ports that I have available. And in this case, what I want to do is I want to take an unconfigured Ethernet port, for instance port 4, and what I want to do is I want to take this port 4 and I want to make it a network uplink. So I'm going to right click on port 4, and here I can see I have the option to configure it as a number of different types of ports. The port that I'm looking for is an uplink port. It's going to ask me if I'm sure, and I'm going to say yes. Now I've configured port 4 on Fabric A as an uplink port, and you can see that it is enabled. Now I want to go to Fabric B, scroll down, and I want to configure port 4 on Fabric Interconnect B as an uplink port, which I have done. Now you can see that I have 1/4 on Fabric A and 1/4 on Fabric B as uplink ports and enabled. That's all it takes to enable an uplink port on Cisco UCS. Now let's go ahead and configure our vSANs. If I'm going to configure a vSAN, I probably want to do that under the SAN tab. Once again, I have a similar configuration where it lists Fabric A, Fabric B, as well as a global vSAN configuration. I'm going to go ahead and create a vSAN. I'm going to give this vSAN the name of VMware, and I'm going to say that this vSAN can only exist on Fabric A with vSAN ID 20. I'm going to go ahead and match that on my FCOE side. So I've went ahead and created vSAN VMware A, and now I'm going to create another vSAN, which is VMware Fabric B. And I'm going to call this one 30. Now I've created a vSAN 20 on Fabric A and a vSAN 30 on Fabric B with the friendly name of VMware A and VMware B. Next, I would go to the SAN cloud and then click SAN Uplinks Manager. From there, I would pick the fiber channel interface that I want to enable. I would select that, then enable that interface. It'll ask me if I'm sure I want to do that. I'm going to say yes, and I'm all set. I go back to my SAN Uplinks Manager, and I'm going to enable the same port on the other side. Enable interface. Yes. Now, as a last step, I'm going to go back to my SAN Uplinks Manager, and I'm going to double-click on interface 2/8 for my SAN, and I'm going to change the default vSAN to 20 on this side, and change the default vSAN on Fabric B to 30 on this side. I should have the same configuration running on the switches that I'm uplinking these ports to. And that should be all I need. I should now be uplinked to both the network and the storage area network environment. As a final step, I may want to explore other options. For instance, I can create a port channel where I create a port channel, I give it an ID. In this case, I'm going to give it 66. And I say next. Now I'm going to take ports and add them to the port channel. And then click Finish. I can now go to my SAN cloud and look at my fiber channel port channel on Fabric A, and I can see that it is enabled. I can do the same thing for Fabric B if I wish. Create a port channel, 66 because it's locally significant. Add port 8 and finish. I can do the same thing on the LAN side. So if I click on the LAN tab, go to my LAN cloud, click on port channels, Fabric A, say create a port channel. I'm going to call this port channel 99. I can go ahead and add my ports to it. Say finish. and I'm all set. I can do the same thing to the other side. Create a port channel 99, select next, finish, and I'm all set. So I now have port channels on both the LAN uplinks and the storage uplinks. And once again, these configurations have to match on both the UCS side and on the storage and on the network side. Please join me for the next lesson, verifying server, LAN, and SAN connectivity.